So are we going right now?
Mm-hmm. We're live.
We are live right now, and it is Saturday night. We were practicing our weekend update that we were going to run for you guys. I'm here. I know that you don't love it when I say Dr. Lisa Allen, I say it because you did earn that title, and because it's a legit title that you have, and it's worth noting. But we talk at the gym probably, 3 to 5 times every week. Mm-hmm. We get to have one-on-one conversations, and I get to know you on a personal level, but I think that the person that I meet is somebody that more people should deserve to meet. Anybody that wants to should get to see like the person you are. Now you're a physical therapist.
Yeah.
When we say that you're a physical therapist, for me, I know I have an idea of what a physical therapist does. Mm-hmm. And while I do see what you do as probably just super legit physical therapy, what you do and your demeanor is unlike any other physical therapy that I've ever been around. What do you think that's based on? And why are you so different than everybody else?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I'm always really after is solving a problem. And a lot of times I see people who have been to a lot of places and nobody's been able to help them with that problem. So that's one thing. And I just really love fixing things. And we all also really like to be a hero. And so what do I get out of it is I love being the hero who can fix stuff.
Right.
But I think that it also has to do with really always putting a lot of effort into whatever it is that I'm doing. Because you don't necessarily have to, and a lot of physical therapy can be kind of cookbook or textbook, and they actually make recipe books, and right. This is what happens, and then this is what you do. But I prefer to really kind of aggressively get involved in it and really kind of see what it is, and figure out the puzzle and figure out the problem, as opposed to just treating the symptoms. I don't believe you can just exercise something better, although I'm an exercise maniac.
Yeah.
I don't think you can exercise something better if there's something wrong with the mechanics.
Yeah.
And so that brings us back to, BioMechanic PT, because I'm all about the mechanics, and then that's the first thing that has to be fixed. And so I don't just do stuff to make it feel better, like massage or ultrasound or laser, and I don't just do stuff to exercise it better. My first job, right. I feel like, is always the mechanics.
You saying that, I know that for me, I'll be intimidated so quick when I go into a place and it starts talking about the mechanics and it starts talking about, any of the anatomy or stuff like that. I'm like, oh, I already know this is going to be over my head. When I go to see you, it's this extremely disarming vibe that I get, that there isn't any of that. You don't throw a whole lot of jargon. You make it a point, I felt like, to explain to me in terms that I could understand, like respectfully. Like I've been to see you a few times, and you've never lorded any of your skills over me, or made me feel like, oh, you know this, and I need you for this. Instead, I always felt really empowered by you. I felt like when I came to see you, you made it a point for it to make sense to me. Mm-hmm. You never got stuck on what you felt was so important to say. You made it important about what I needed to hear. You needed me to understand what it was to get better. Like, what is it? I mean, how do you do that? More so than any other great. I've seen great physical therapists. That's a new thing. Like, to not talk big words and instead just make it very real life.
I think there's an expression that I heard, which I have always had a real hard time with, but I think you'll appreciate it. It's called granting beingness. And what you're doing when you're talking to somebody is you're really just saying, who is this that I'm with? And kind of not coming from necessarily where you are, but you're really just trying to really grok what the other person is and where they're from and kind of what's important to them. Because when you do get into exercise, if I give somebody exercises that won't fit in their life, or if I'm trying to do something that's not their goals, then it's not meaningful to them. So I really need to know what's important to them, and it's really all about them when they're there. So it's important for me to really, and granting beingness, I don't know, this expression still doesn't really make much sense to me, but there's a feeling that I get with it.
From just letting people, allowing yourself to see people for themselves, not just our idea of who they come in. The first thing that we're going to do, especially as coaches or teachers, where we kind of like have this projection, this idea of who we're dealing with, and we make quick judgments. It's human. We're going to do it. And we create these expectations. And what I've found is, even though I have them, I have this idea of what I'm going to expect this person to be like. I work on keeping it real fluid and being ready to change it at a moment's notice. Even if I'm right now, except that this person, you can change it at any moment.
Yeah.
Would you say that would that kind of be related?
No, yeah, that's definitely related. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is and you also don't know when you're going to hit on something, and it probably happens the same for you when you're a coach. If you're accidentally hit a button somewhere, it can be upsetting to the person. So yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about. Being fluid and going wherever the person kind of needs to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Which it's just very, as simple as it sounds. I think most important things are pretty simple. Is you bring a lot of humanity to it. Where when we kind of see, and I know several doctors that I love, but when we hear doctor and we hear this title, like you're a little bit nervous not nervous, but just you don't want to seem arrogant by putting the doctor thing out there, because we kind of, our society, we kind of put this idea that they know better than us, that we're better than us, and you want to be extremely relatable to people. You want to be really human to people. To me, that's why I've gotten better stuff from going to see you than anything else that I've ever done outside of the gym.
Oh, I'm so glad I could do that for you.
And I know several other people who've all said that, who just come away with these experiences. I could tell, look, you don't do that good with the compliments, hearing everybody say the nice stuff about you. So I'll change it. You also, I think one thing that stands out to me, I can't say that this for sure with every other doctor, but with you, there is an obvious, intense love and passion for what you're doing. Like when you're explaining these things, you're not explaining these things as this is how I read them in a book. It's like, this is how I figured this out. And it's fascinating. If you give yourself a chance, that not only can you feel better, but you can grow to love how to make yourself feel better and make lasting results. If you can let your guard down and realize that this stuff doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be intimidating.
It doesn't have to be painful.
It doesn't have to be painful. It has to be challenging. But that doesn't mean you can't grow to love the challenge. And you do that for people. Your main drive is the helping people.
Right.
You opened up a place here in Virginia Beach not to make money. You opened a place here specifically because you wanted to help people that you knew you live here. And you're like, you know what? I got all these friends. I want them to feel good.
Yeah, definitely all these friends that I wanted to help. But no, I think it probably always had to do with the mechanics, and just because I've always loved mechanics. So one of the first things I wanted to be was an engineer, and then an electrical engineer, and I would take things apart that maybe I shouldn't have taken apart, but at least I could always put them back together around the house. And my dad is an engineer, and I think probably it also has to do with some early wins in that area. I was in, I don't remember if I was in junior high or high school. He had to give a engineering test to all of his staff. And he gave the engineering test to me too. And I scored higher than any of his engineering staff on this test.
Wow.
And so then you go, well, that's something that I'm good at, so I want to do that. And I did actually try to major in engineering in college, but I didn't feel smart enough. It was all guys.
Right.
I think I felt it like it was really hard. Then I was actually, when I graduated college, my first career was actually genetics research, and that's problem solving.
And now you're doing a combination.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
but the genetics research, I didn't want to be chasing grants my whole life,
Yeah.
and it didn't pay.
Right.
So I needed a job where I could make a decent amount of money, and then serendipitously, it happened to be PT school. I didn't know that physical therapy was going to be as perfect for me as it was, because physical therapy is really physics. The body's a system of pulleys and levers.
100%. And I agree with that. Yeah.
And so then when I got into PT school, then is when I really realized how perfect it was. But I didn't know it was going to be perfect until I got there.
Did you figure out? Did you just figure it out? You were this young person who loved to understand in the most simple way mechanics of things. Like when you were young, it was with things. And when you were young and you took that test that adults were taking, you scored very well, because it wasn't a test based on knowledge. It was a test based on understanding. This is to see whether or not you're going to get in. Once you get into the school, then it's all about knowledge. Remember this, know this is factual, this is factual, instead of just understanding the basics. And when you understand the basics, there's really no limit. You know what I mean? You can build off of that as much as you can.
Yeah.
Knowledge is really limiting, and understanding is very inspiring. You know what I mean? If you're into it, you love to understand the mechanics.
Yeah.
And that's why you, in your physical therapy, is the exact same thing that you were as a little girl, like putting things together. I love and to understand the simple stuff of just, it's really simple. Like, if people looked at me and what I know about the anatomy, I used to be better at it, but I've largely forgotten it because I almost never touch on it. Because you can always bring it back to just the pulleys and levers.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. See, I just talked more than you did in the interview.
It's totally fine. But anyway, so the next trick then was having the practice and having people work for me and finding people who were like-minded. And if they weren't like-minded, were they willing to practice this type of physical therapy?
Right.
And there are, of course, plenty of other people who are like-minded and who are really into the mechanics. One of my physical therapy school classmates, though, had also mentioned, I've got stuff posting on Facebook, whatever, and what we do. And he commented, I really think it was Temple. I think we went to Temple University, that also was in this mechanic mind, because he feels like that's how he runs his practice too. Right. Is really mechanically based. So then, that's the next trick, is getting therapists who are like that. And I'll say something that should be cut, but the other problem is that I think a lot of people, I don't, whether it's just physical, it's not just physical therapists, I'm sure it happens in any fields, but there's a lot of people who are mentally lazy, and they don't want to put the effort into figuring it out, and stay late when they want to be somewhere, or come in on a Saturday, or do whatever it takes. You were talking about, kind of the passion and the enthusiasm. So I need to find therapists, and I do find therapists who are mechanically interested and not mentally lazy, and who really, really care about people. And when the patients give their reviews, they do talk about how they can tell when their therapist really does care, whether they get better or not. But just caring isn't enough. Because you can have a therapist that you love, and they're not going to fix you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know what? If you don't believe in what you're doing, you're probably going to do just as enough as you need to do. So to me, I don't see a whole lot of passionate people who are lazy. I see a lot of people who are dispassionate, and it looks like laziness. I think it looks like it's, like this is lazy. But the truth is, it's kind of like, like, why do you get people to have these, I call them aha moments, and you get people to have aha moments all of the time, because even though it's real simple to you, it's brand new, and like it never processed that way to them. They got stuck on chasing the knowledge and going just if it's knowledge and understanding, like this two different paths, they get so far away. The longer we're in there, the further we get away from it, and the more stuck we get in there. And when somebody just gets them with a bam understanding, it's like a ton of bricks. A lot of people, and I think you might agree with me, a lot of people don't get better, not because they're lazy, but because they don't understand how.
Oh no, I didn't mean.
I know. We're talking about people, but I meant in careers also, like physical therapists, like they don't understand how, especially if they've got, you guys got great instruction from Temple. If you had somebody from another school, they're so stuck by the book,
right?
Whatever that book says, and it's like, no, the book says this, the book, and they've gotten so glued to that and valued the knowledge that they're getting from that book that they forgot to take the time to just understand the simplicity of it. Yeah. And you found it, but you love it, and that's why you're not lazy. That's why you'll work every single day. Because it's not.
I do.
Yeah, and you do, but you would probably go crazy if you didn't.
Yeah, I love working.
Most passionate people do.
Yeah, and I love working out.
I think we all know that.
Wareing says you want to be the best part of my day, and they are. Yeah, for sure. The gym is.
That is something, but that's another part of it, because you're a believer. Like if somebody gives you a reason to buy in, you go all in. You know what I mean? Like if once, because we're so used to kind of bullshit. When bullshit comes up, then my first instinct is like, this is bullshit. To be honest, people think I'm a positive guy. I am, but my first instinct, if I don't know you and you come up, I'm like, what's this dude selling? Is my first thought. You know what I mean? And you gotta win me over. Once you were won over, nobody had to try to sell you anything ever again. You just went straight in, and you became a seller. Like you sell it. You make workouts more fun for other people. You know what I mean? You add value. That's the truth. What people don't realize is the secret to the gym is not us. And when you think about it, it's the truth. How much do you love seeing the people that you see there? Yeah. How many friends have you made there? You know,
tons. It's
huge. The people are the sellers. Like largely, you just make you set up a place where they can have fun doing what they're doing, and just get the hell out of their way and just watch people enjoying what they do. And if you go there, whenever like people visit from other gyms, like like people from other gyms who are in town to help us out with something, or vice versa, every time they're always just blown away by the culture, but they're also blown away by the movements,
the skill.
Everybody moves real well in there. You know what I mean?
Well, that's because they're getting good instruction too.
Thank you.
But I mean, because you really do have to, once again, be passionate and stay on top of it in order to correct the movement patterns. It's the same in the physical therapy, because if you're not correcting the movement pattern every single time, then Right. So, and a lot of trainers might not do that, or a lot of coaches in the class maybe wouldn't. And actually, I don't know if other gyms have the kind of class, kind of structure that you all have with the teaching. And it's not a class where you have an exercise instructor in front of you. It's a group personal training. Just a large, enthusiastic group personal training.
Kind of, yeah. I guess so. I don't know. Yeah. I don't get.
I've never had it in another gym. I belong to a lot of gyms, and I belong to a lot of gyms that I liked, and I've had a lot of fun aerobics classes, but never really kind of the team training classes that y'all have. So I'm not sure if it's just a thing of contemporary of now, but no, I don't think so.
It's
I don't
different.
think other
Now
people-
you're
I don't-
interviewing me. That's
Yeah,
good. Oh,
I don't think
it's you know what? It's evolved, but consistently. We're coming up on 60 years.
Yeah.
1960 was when my granddad started it, and the whole time it's always evolved. If you look at it 10 years from now,
Yeah.
it'll be different again.
Right.
We've stayed
Yeah.
open for as long because we've never been afraid to.
Keep moving.
Stop what you're doing and go wherever
Yeah.
you got to go.
Yeah. But the other thing that I noticed and that I appreciate, as a physical therapist, is that the trainers there know more and are more accurate with the information that they give than a lot of places. A lot of places give generic information that's kind of that I call when I'm teaching a patient in the clinic. I'm like, now this is the gym level explanation. This is what they tell you to do. This is what you're actually supposed to be doing, and that's just been simplified for the gym level. And so, but the trainers at Wareing's don't do the dumbed down gym level thing. They actually know what they're doing, and I really like that.
I like it too. I'm glad because I'm never sure, so I'm glad.
But no, y'all don't do the typical gym instruction of how to do certain exercises. There's a way that the mainstream seems to teach it, and then y'all are doing it right. And
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's the same thing where it's you know what? It's a labor of love, and I think it's probably I think we're good for starters, but I think the reason why I'm saying to you the exact same thing that you're saying to me about how we're very passionate about what we do, and that's probably the key why we're good at it. I never feel like I'm smart. I've never ever felt like that. But I know that I care. You know what I mean? And that's enough for me. You know what I mean? Like I never have reached a point where I'm like, okay, now I know this with certainty. I don't feel like I know anything with any level. It can all change. But I know that I care enough in this moment to where I can understand it well enough to try to translate it to somebody and get them to understand it. And if I'm wrong, I'm willing to pay that price too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I can accept the fact that I'm not going to always be right. And if I'm wrong, I can live with the consequences.
But y'all are definitely more right than others.
Well, good. I'm trying to be as right as we can. Is there a criteria? Like, so you say, okay, so you've got a staff because there's going to be a lot of time that you can't always be there. And you have to trust that whoever's in there is going to care to the same level that you do.
Yeah.
What's your criteria? Like, you have special people. I do,
and I have a lot of I have a lot of things that I do to make sure that I have them. So of course there's your interview, but I also do a lot of tests. I do IQ test, a personality test, and an aptitude test, and then we actually have them work in the clinic with patients, and we'll stack it to our patients that we really know, and then we ask the patient later, what do you think? How'd they do? And then they are usually a very good judge.
Right. Yeah, the best judge.
Patients know when they've been helped. They also know when somebody's bullshitting them.
Wow.
And so if there's somebody who's bullshitting them or who's more interested in having lunch or playing with their cell phone, they know that person doesn't have that passion.
Right.
And they can tell. So that's one of the things we do is we stack it.
Lisa, I can't tell you, but I know that you already know how much I appreciate you sitting down and not just like talking, but talking just openly and honestly. I think one, you learn a lot about yourself whenever you like just sit down and you start actually talking your real truth. But I do also think that it's the exact kind of thing that people need to see about you. It's the kind of thing that again furthers your ability to let people's guards down. I think that the more people that know that, probably the better. I appreciate you sitting down. I appreciate you jumping in on every challenge that I ever throw your way, even though I know I throw them regularly. But you do know the rules. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't challenge you,
it doesn't change you.